Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alex Cisneros. I'm the fac rep at Southern California TradeCon SCT, and I am going to be your host for the evening. First, I want to start by saying thank you for taking the time to join our town hall and be able to ask our candidates questions. It's incredibly important, and that's really what this campaign's about, being able to have conversations with the people that want to be the leaders of our organization. So thank you, first of all. I want to kick it off with introduce our candidates. Of course, Mr. Nick Daniels and Daniels-Haltom. Nick, you want to tell us a little about yourself?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Alex, for doing this. The entire team's help. It's not possible without all of you. And thank you, Southern Region, for everybody who's joining. I see the number increasing by the minute and looking forward to having the conversation, discussion. A little bit about me. I am a candidate for NACA president. And I started my air traffic career in the United States Marine Corps in 1998 to 2003. And then I ended up going and moving over and look at Jason Arnold already with the hoorah shout out there for all the devil dogs that are out there, and moved over to the FAA 2003. I got hired, so just put me anywhere but Texas, and in good FAA form, I was put in Addison Tower in Dallas, Texas. It was because I was from there and looking to escape the heat, but life has its way, right? Addison Tower for 2 years, and then was picked up to Fort Worth Center in 2005, moved over there and certified about a week and a half before the White Book went into effect. And was the just after that, the fight was on. I was elected area rep, and then I've served continuously in an elected position since that time in about 2007 until today. Area rep, secretary at Fort Worth Center, vice president, was then 6 years as the fac rep, ARVP, and now serving the term as regional vice president since September 1, 2021, and am going from there. I have an 18-year-old son who's a senior, graduates here in a few weeks. Excited to see that and where his future and career take him. He has been working to become a pilot, and also have a 6-year-old kindergartner who keeps me on my toes constantly and consistently, and pointed in the right direction. So with that, I'll turn it over to my brother Jamal and let him introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I am Daniels-Haltom, NACA's National Training Representative and a candidate for Executive Vice President. I started my air traffic career back in '99 in the Air Force. Anybody can say hoorah or anything like that if they choose. But yes, did very much so started there. Did 99 to 05, got out, worked at a couple contract towers, Groton in Connecticut and Martin State in Middle River, Maryland. Transitioned into the FAA in '07 after wondering why they weren't ever selecting my resume. Found out I made a mistake on the processing. Got to Las Vegas TradeCon, stayed there for a year and change, went to Tamiami Tower in beautiful Miami, Florida. Then came back west to Las Vegas Tower. Was in my NACA roles there. I was the secretary for about 9 months, actually kind of acting as the rep because the rep was over it. And then I was elected fac rep from 2011 to 2019. Did a lot of things along the way, recurrent training and other. In 2016, I was on the Slatebook contract negotiating team. And 2019, I've been the training rep for NACA since. Very proud of that. Love working with, I see several people on here that I work with in that capacity. I am a father also. My daughter's 20. She'll be 21 May 22nd. So pray for my pockets. And that is it.
That's great. Thank you for telling us a little about yourselves. At this point, do you want to talk about your vision, what you guys have in mind for our organization?
Yeah, Alex, the biggest part of this is obviously getting to the questions. And you see the style that we set it up. It's just a meeting, this family. Let's have the discussions. The chat will go to everyone. Alex will walk you through that here in a moment. But that is part of that vision, is getting back to having the conversations, the education, and ultimately understanding what our purpose is as a union, because we have so many new people that haven't been around for a lot of the fights of the past, and that's not their fault. But understanding what is a purpose of a union, is it just to give you things, or do we have a purpose, and do we know what that purpose is? Do we align with that purpose, and ultimately, what is our purpose inside this union? And that's all of these questions and discussions, going out and visiting the facilities is part of that. Is having engaged leadership move that direction. And when I say the word leadership, that isn't just something that is thrown around loosely. That is one of the things that I think is absolutely lacking, what I've seen for the last 2.5 years of being on this National Executive Board. And the fact that leadership isn't something that's done by just a person. It is a team sport. It comes with trust. It comes with pushing each other. It comes with the ability to know, while we can have robust discussions, that ultimately it's for making each other better, not playing gotcha. And this is how to tear it down, to tear each other down so I look better. That's the difference in world of where Jamal and I decided to run as a team. We wanted to be upfront that our visions, even where they align or they are different, are going to be visions that push us together as an organization, challenge us to think of all of the, or as many different ways to tackle a problem or a process, and then collectively make a well-informed decision and then move forward. Because now it's not just we did this because we decided. We did this when we looked at all these things along the way. And we may have got back to exactly where we started, but we're better every single time that we all engage and have a discussion, and don't just have a funnel where ultimately it goes up and one person says yes or one person says no. Ultimately, a person has to own the decisions, but they also have to articulate why we are moving those, because an entire membership should be standing side by side with us as we move forward and down that road and have the discussions along the way. So that's a little bit of it. But we know through the questions, we'll absolutely be talking about pay, contract, employee movement. Those things tend to come up organically. And if for some weird reason they don't, we will talk about those along the way. But I'll turn it over to my brother Jamal for anything to add, just to kind of level set the evening and how we got here, why we're running together.
Yeah, to me, this union has done so much for not just me, but for my family. And when I say my family, I mean my blood family and then my NACA family. Being a part of it through the lows of 2007 to 2009 to the highs, and knowing that what we relied on was that we had integritous leaders, that we were educated, that we had a goal in mind, that we worked together, that we disagreed respectfully, that we had a pride in our union, a union that is and a profession that is seen in a way that the rest of the world looks to us as a standard. Seeing that slip a little bit in my mind, and knowing that people have intentionally given me education so that I could be in a position to help, I thought I would offer myself up. When you offer yourself up in these positions that myself and Nick have, you open yourself up to scrutiny, and that's okay. That's why we're here, very transparent. We've both taught rep training since late 2016. You have to take many questions, and you have to often tell people that their idea doesn't quite align with the contract, but you do that in a way that they walk away feeling that they're still part of this union. We think that that's missing to an extent. We think that we can restore that, but we can't restore it on our own. We have to restore it by first being willing to be out amongst the members, engage, learn from, and teach, and have that reciprocal relationship that grows our union, from a person that's just about to join tomorrow to one that's on their way out and has already decided when their paperwork's going to be dropped. We want that all those union members to know what we stand for, be part of what we stand for, and move us forward. So that's why we're willing to open ourselves up to being scrutinized to the level that we have, because it means something to us. So happy to be out amongst you all. I'll pass it back over to you, Alex, and you can set up how this works.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I should have started with, this is being recorded. Um, uh, it's one of the buttons that you clicked as you were coming in, but I wanted just full disclosure here. The way we've been running these, you could put your question into the chat forum, or you can raise your hand. We will go back and forth between the chat and the raise your hand function. If you do raise your hand, we'll call on you. If you could turn on your camera, and that would be better, as so we can have that face-to-face communication. That's what we like, but we get it that sometimes that's not possible. If you put some question in the chat function, please, if you could put your name and facility, that would make it a little easier. Again, not required. We do go through every single question. We've had some of these that last 3 hours, but we are here for you. So whatever question you have, we will absolutely get to it. And if you have a follow-up, if you could let us know, that way we could keep going back or go back and forth, I would appreciate it. So we're going to start with our first question that we got today, and that was via the chat. Bill Allen, I'd like to know, if elected, how do you plan to better represent the FCT members and start holding private companies responsible for labor right violations? Also, bringing back the FCT workers back under the FAA regular workforce is not an acceptable answer. That ship has already sailed.
Yeah, Alex, I'll jump in and start with that because just prior to this, we were on the Southwest Region FCT call. It's something that the Southwest Region, when John and I first, were in these positions as leaders of our region, we realized that our FCTs didn't appear to have a level of communication that we thought was appropriate for our region. We started, first of all, with monthly calls in the Southwest Region. And really, the way that things had been handled in the past was there was an ARVP from, RVA. The Southwest Region is all RVA facilities. And we would, quite often never hear about them as an ARVP as well, but it was kind of more split between FAA and FCT. And John and I made a concerted effort. And then when I speak of John, since we're not on the Southwest Region call, we're on the Southern Region, it's John Bratcher, who's the alternate regional vice president and RVP elect for the Southwest Region. We decided to start there, and that we were going to work the issues. We weren't going to have an ARVP out of the FCT, so we could understand the issues that were going on, that we could properly support them, and immediately be conduits over to RVA and figure out who our counterparts were and hold them accountable to it. We know that that doesn't just stop there of a monthly telecon. It was then we have moved to where we have two LR representatives as well now on the FCTs that are FCT controllers who work in conjunction with myself and John as a collective team. And I think that's where we have to start when it comes to FCT representation, is take like-minded approaches. While we have an entire company, we need to have the communication with all those that are part of that company. Serco, Midwest, RVA all being different. But ultimately, what we have to do is put out, labor advocates that are experienced, that directly understand and know where the broad base of our rights are under Title V, under the law, and bring them in conjunction and educate the LR rep or the FCT reps as well. So ultimately, that's going to come through some level of reform and change in the way that we've approached it in the past. Not just saying our FCTs have grown exponentially over the last few years. Our organizing committee, and I'm not saying that just because John Bratcher is on this call, but our organizing committee, and a huge shout out to all of them, have been organizing our FCTs left and right. We have to evolve with them, and that will come from directly engaging you, seeing what structures work, what lessons we've learned along the way from the Southwest, Southern region. Those two regions hold the most of it, and really start to rebuild what that looks like so we best serve you. And if you have ideas or ways that you think that should be, we're open to those as well.
Yeah, for me, I think one of the major and important things to have is lived experience. I worked in two contract towers, as I said in my introduction, Midwest ATC. I see how they take advantage of employees. I see that NACA's current position, and we will continue to pursue, is having a DOL wage description that increases the pay for air traffic controllers and FCTs, because in effect, that's going to increase the pay for all air traffic controllers, right? A high tide rises all ships. We want to ensure that those at FCTs are taken care of appropriately, not in any way, shape, or form looked at as just a talking point. But as Nick said, the best way to do that is engage with them. Those who are living the experience are going to be able to tell you what's occurring, setting up a vehicle and a pipeline to have that dialogue where it doesn't get lost in the mix, and that we have a two-way communication, and that we answer the questions and don't leave them lingering. So hopefully that answers your question. We want to be very clear that, as Nick said, part of the solution is engaging you all, not assuming that we have every single answer already.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we're going to go to Rick Calley from Fulton County Airport in Georgia. Sir, if you could just go ahead with your question.
I got it. Thank you for taking 2 FCT questions right off the bat. I'm retired FAA, and I've been in the contract towers for about 11 years. And what I've come to after observing this long, being a rep here most of this time, is we really have to think outside the box going forward. I dropped a question, and actually was the first one on the other presidential candidates' town hall. And that is the idea of actually turning this over to the AFL-CIO and working with them to create the kind of environment that we need to survive. We can't just be part of the NATCA federal program and handled with the same rules and the same thoughts and the same concepts. You've got to have a tireless type of private entity organization that can fight for us to the level of, after it goes as far as it can in negotiations, we vote to strike. You're never going to be able to do that, and all of the bargaining units you're representing are never going to be able to do that. We can, and it's a tool. It's not the first thing you go to, but we've got to be thinking along those lines. All these victories in the last year or 2 years from private company unions have been because they had that tool, and they had that kind of, northeastern crooked nose, get in the middle of everything and just make sure that people are paying attention. We're either air traffic controllers or we're not. And we represent, controllers as a whole represent like 0.0004 of the population of the US. And yet we're out here just basically fighting for everything that we get, from our contractors who just run wild. This DOL investigation forcing them to pay sick leave they were supposed to pay in 2020. We had to go to them ourselves and get them to start an investigation. There's other things they're doing, and they're just making up their reasons.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Rick, for speaking to that issue. Listen, private sector and public sector unions do have different rules that they're bound by. So you have to be willing to pursue any avenue, and by all means to address the needs that exist within the legal bounds of those particular structures that you're in. I would say, and I know you said Northeast, but strong union brothers and sisters all over the country willing to do whatever it takes, no matter where they are. So we take no back seat. You all being in the southern region, take no back seat to any region of this country. The fight is where it is and has to be taken to where it needs to be taken. So while not advocating for what you spoke to specifically, because I don't have enough education on it to speak to it, and I would caution myself not to do that. I would say any legal means to get what unions need, we should be willing to pursue those and pursue it vigorously. So I appreciate your comments, and I don't want you to think I'm dodging it. I just have not, I haven't versed myself well enough to speak to specifically whether or not that's something that I can say we would support.
Yeah, and Rick, I think you bring up a perfect point that we do need that level of private, sector expertise with us. One of the things that we recently did as an organization a while back was we hired Natalie Moffett back into, she helped during the New York 11. She was actually worked for the firm that we had 11 air traffic controllers that were fired out of in 90. And she has now come in and dove right into DoD contracts. And that is something, I think, like you said, another point of we need to look at our resources of, do we have experts in private area? Are we hiring the correct persons to make sure that we have that information? And can we, just as Jamal said there, build not just the expertise ourselves, but the support structure and system to say, this is how we'll attack private industry different than public sector industry, and that our union be able to do both fronts and not just rely on what we've learned along the way through either FAA or FCT from there. But having now different leaders such as Jamal, John Bratcher, that have worked in FCTs, who've also negotiated FAA, and then bringing in leaders just like yourself, Rick, other FAC reps that are around that have served time in the FAA and served in the FCT. I think that experience has to be done. A meeting should be held so we can all start moving and rowing in the same direction from NACA. We shouldn't have to split to keep building. Just like we started this union, in 1987, we've obviously grown and learned along the way. And I think this is one of the areas that we can grow and learn the most in.
Thank you, Rick, for asking that question. I see Mr. Grimes' hand is up. I am going to take a couple from the chat and then get to you, Mr. Grimes. So next one from Justin Morgan. This is for Nick. Can you speak to the statements made in Rich's last video of you, Nick, not offering help regarding the fatigue memo and being absent in the heat of battle?
Justin, first of all, thanks for being here. I think it was a video that came out this morning, as I got a few texts along the way. I haven't watched the video, Justin, so I'll just go off the statements and the words that you said, because I don't have the full context around it, but I'm used to the way that Rich tends to talk about Jamal and myself in this election. And, right along that usually is some level of deflection or some level of setting it up where somehow everybody else didn't run to the aid. So the true issue is that we have been now viewed, because of Rich's leadership, as somebody who can be put in that position. And if speaking specifically to me, being absent in the heat of battle, I've never missed a day. My phone's never been off, and somehow I didn't get a call, I didn't get a text. When those things were there, the NEB is fully to support. I know John Bratcher got a call because we worked together on the daily, and he was put on a committee that never met again after an initial phone call. And then ultimately, Dean Acapelli, John Murdoch, and many others were engaged. We were able to sway and move the ball into a world of collaboration. And that is a victory for us. That is something that we should look at. But we were always going to have to figure out, how do we get here? And why is the agency looking at us this way? But if I'm being looked at as somehow not helping, well, then I guess every issue that comes up, I should just be the president instead of the president that's out there. Because if I'm going to take the blame, at least put me in the fight, because I wasn't put in the fight on that one at all. So when elected the president, you won't hear me blaming everyone else for not being willing to dive in. I'll have a level of expectation. The groups that we'll set up will actually meet and help turn the direction, and it won't just be something in a talking point for a video later on.
While the question wasn't directed directly at me, Justin, I want to speak to Nick's character and say we never run from work, and we don't ask for credit for work. I mean, you can look at things like when we were in COVID and we had to do the BWS for the entire country. That was myself, Nick Daniels, and John Bratcher. There was an entire NEB that existed at the time. I don't believe Nick was yet part of that NEB. And we did that work, and then we passed it off and said, whomever's going to take the credit for it, take the credit for it. If Nick was asked to help with fatigue prior to that, he would have done it, because that's what we do as union representatives. We don't look for credit. We look to resolve issues that are going to affect our membership. The fact of the matter is, we weren't, as a union, we were not collaborated with on that decision. If you watched our video regarding it, we both said it'll be fixed. We have faith in the fact that this union will get it fixed. We understand our collective bargaining agreement, and we understand our rights well enough to know that the imposition was not going to take place. The question all voters have to ask themselves is, why did the administrator even feel comfortable, or why did he think that was something that he had to do? So while trying to deflect it onto Nick, it just is another show of character of not accepting responsibility that comes with the position of being the president of the union. You can't continuously deflect. You deflect on the CBA. You blame the extension on someone else. You say that when you were part of the NEB that it extended it, you actually didn't extend it. Although as an elect, you said it was a great idea to extend it. So hopefully people are seeing a common theme. Eventually you'll be able to cast a ballot. We pride ourselves in telling the truth and hiding from no difficult conversations. We appreciate your question, Justin, and always look at you as an honorable man, and appreciate you for keeping us honest.
Awesome. One more for the chat. So this is from Tango Kilo at Miami Center. This question is for Nick. In previous statements, you have said that if Mick and you win, Mick will not have any voice in the direction of the board or union, and he will only do what is constitutionally required, and that you will still go to Jamal to choose the path our union takes. From everyone I talk to, it seems like there's just not enough support to move Jamal over the finish line. Does the size of Jamal's defeat change how you see yourself using both Mick and Jamal and a potential mandate from voters?
I think there was some nuance to that question that I'll try to correct first. First of all, I don't even want to have to think of the world where this union doesn't get a chance and the opportunity to be part of the movement of Daniels-Haltom, his leadership, and the amazing everything from ideas that he brings, and his ability to collectively either move the ball forward or educate everyone on the idea of collective thinking and union. That's number one. Speaking specifically to what I've said in the past, this is exactly what I've said is, if Mick is to win, Mick obviously gets the same voice that every NEB member has. He gets to exercise his authority under the Constitution. With this world and notion that Mick Devine's going to go and lead all of our negotiations, or that he somehow, as the executive vice president, will be out there, finding himself as our chief negotiator, I can tell you right now that that's not going to happen. I have not seen his ability to either close a deal, move a ball forward, or ultimately negotiate on this union's behalf. He doesn't possess the skills, the knowledge set, or the overall, I would say, experience that's needed to be in a position like that. So just know that out of the bat. I'm telling you that directly, so you know and can move in that, understand that decision and direction. I don't think Jamal will be defeated to capture on the backside of that. And it doesn't matter by 1 vote or 15,000 votes, however somebody wins or loses, what direction will be. Obviously not going to go to a pseudo executive vice president. The members will speak. Ultimately, we'll work with the board that you put together. That is the reason all of these positions go up at once. But I will tell you, it would be a disservice to our membership and union if Daniels-Haltom is not the executive vice president and you elect me the president, because we know we have where each other's strengths and weaknesses lie, the ways that we can move the union forward together. And ultimately, what you would be doing, I think, to me, is hampering our ability to be as effective as we can possibly be. So I'll stop there before I go into any type of full rant. And I'm sure Jamal would like to speak to this one as well.
Well, I would say hopefully that TK is wrong. I hope there is enough support to get me over, but in no way, shape, or form would I want to be a shadow president or a shadow executive vice president. If this union determines that Mick Devine is the appropriate person to be the executive vice president, then we're so different in our styles, our deliveries, our level of integrity, our experiences, our experience level. If that's what the union were to choose, then I would either remain the training rep or I go back to Las Vegas. I would not be an impediment to this union's success because I believe in this union more than I believe in myself. Jamal-Haltom, the individual, ceases to exist when the workday starts. I work on behalf of the union. So whatever capacity that's in, that's the capacity I would serve. I would not try to undermine anyone. I've never done that. I've only tried to move the union forward. So even you, TK, I'd hope you reconsider and vote for me. Maybe you're the one that puts me over the top, and we get to see how strong we can be as a union with someone who has been in a union capacity for quite a long time, served this union very well. I'm saying that humbly, but would love to continue to serve the union in whatever capacity that is, hopefully executive vice president. So I appreciate your quasi endorsement there, sir.
Thank you. Earlier we had Mr. Grimes. He had his hand up, or so hands down. I assume the question was answered. See no movement. We're going to go to the next question. This is also from the chat. Rob, not going to beat around the bush. Let's talk pay. Are we really happy with 1.7? How come if I work at one facility for 7 years and move up, why is it going to the bottom of the band without carrying over 7 years of 1.7 supposed makes someone happy? And what's the deal with Abacus and lacking on making sure people get paid for the amount of operations they do at Jax?
Hey Nick, why don't you take the first part? I'll take the Abacus part if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Let's start off with no one's ever happy if they're not getting paid more. It's not a matter of being happy. It's a matter of negotiation. And our goal is to absolutely move that forward through a negotiation, whether that be a full-term negotiation, whether that be a robust MOU, whatever that mechanism looks like. No, not happy with 1.7, but we will negotiate and make sure that we do everything we can to move not only the pay bands, but your way to increase and move through those pay bands. And we'll just throw you a couple ideas on them right now. Is number one, we would be pushing to eliminate as fast as we can the academy grad pay. Well, that doesn't move you through the pay band. That is a segment of the pay band where you would show up at your facility at the first appropriate developmental setting. For a facility of that size would be D1. If it was, let's say, a level 5 up down, it would be a D3. And right now, with the economy the way it is, with our pay set the way it is, we think that would be a way to immediately attack it and then codify it into a contract and move from there. The other things were ideas that we've talked about is moving you up in the band through your certifications such as CIC, is using that as a 3% step increase or negotiating. Again, none of these things happen because somebody promises to you or we're waving a magic wand and we just didn't think of it yet. You have to be able to work with the agency and see where we can move the ball forward, and moving you through the band through a CIC and saying that's a 3% raise and let you build on there. And then we earn 10% starts to change that equation. Again, it's how do we get to the top of the band faster? And then the last part that I'll add on that is I've heard the idea. Several people have pitched it different ways of using your years in service at another facility to push you in a band from there. I think it's a great idea when we're talking about being locked in and stuck at facilities for as long as we are, giving our staff in crisis. We know it's going to take in the projections of 8 to 9 years before we actually get towards a healthy system again that would operate where people can free flow and move to facilities of need or desire when we're going from there, and especially back into a world where you're progressing your career. I think we capitalize on those right now. We find the ways to bargain it, and it's a great point to see is how do we move you through that band and using your years of service and your experience. I love the idea. In no way opposed to it.
Yeah, we have to be willing to address everything. And Nick said negotiations, also legislatively, as ways that we move our pay. We don't have to wait for contract negotiations. We've seen the history of our union where pay has been moved through a memorandum of understanding. But specifically regarding Abacus, when we signed the slate book in 2016, it was in July, and we had an agreement for a national validation team, MOU, and that called for standing up a traffic counting system for en route, and then addressing what was between 13 and 16 terminal or en route proposals to adjust the TCIs. We have to look at all of that, right? Where the failure lies is who's been pushing the envelope there with Abacus, right? In 2018, one of the contract team members, Eddie Delisle, was the LR lead, if you will, on Abacus. In 2019, he stepped down from his role as RVP and handed that off to Rich Santa. Rich Santa, when he became president, handed that off to Mick Devine. We've seen countless downgrades, very few upgrades, and no real progress as it relates to Abacus. I believe that a stronger LR person on there could move the ball. We've seen that in the past. In the past, we've seen strong LR advocates that are leading the MVT through MOU or other means increase pay for controllers. Allowing something that languished for 8 years in the manner that it has is a failure of leadership. That's where we are right now. We tied ourselves to Abacus, and the agency has slow rolled it, and we haven't decoupled ourselves from it. I liken it to an iPhone. If Apple waited for the iPhone 15 to roll out, we'd have never got an iPhone. So Abacus doesn't have to be perfect in order for it to address the count. If you're saying that it's counting to a 99.9% rate at a validation test in Atlanta, then why aren't you pushing the agency to accept that and move forward? And also, by the way, negotiate those 13 to 16 other breakpoints that we addressed, or TCI adjustments that we addressed when we signed that MOU. Long and short of it, sir, is it appears to be a failure of leadership, one that we're asking you to allow us to correct.
So we're going to our next question, and this is from Philip Pip Knight from Jack Center. My area alone had 5 members get out because they don't feel NACA is representing them. Most reasons are they don't feel compensated for the amount of work we are doing. Abacus is too far away to keep other people from getting out in the future. Do you have a plan to upgrade facilities?
Yeah, I'll start out with, I know Jamal covered Abacus a little bit earlier, so I won't reiterate that, but I'm sure there's some other points we spoke to it, is they got out because they don't feel part of it, because one, we're not communicating effectively on anything that's going on, and you're not being paid right. There is that just plain fact. You're not being paid properly. It hasn't been addressed. There's been rumors of it being addressed, to which it then fell in saying there's no vehicle now, and it may not ever be able to be done by Rich, as he stated when he talked about trying to upgrade 5 centers. The direct plan and attack that has to be taken is we either start implementing the methods now that Abacus has been able to bring in, or we create a short-term approach until Abacus can actually take effect. And that's going to be stating, and I know the great question is, well, what about facilities being downgraded as well? If our union is going to sit there and say no one can be downgraded and everybody can be upgraded, sure, that's utopia. But at the same time, that the facilities that are not being paid correctly should not be sitting there, never being paid correctly, because we're worried about people being downgraded. If there's a system, make it fair and let's do it right. That's the difference. If we want to be able to stand in front of you saying we did the right things for the right reasons at the right time, we're not going to be held hostage to somebody else or something else and be worried that we're not applying it properly. We're not going to do it short-sighted, and we're sure as hell not going to run into the fire and let people be downgraded just because. But we need to make sure it's done correct, and we can't be scared of correct, that it brings answers they don't like. It's the same thing we did with the CRWG. We knew when we signed up to do and relook at the numbers for the NAS, they could have gone up, all of them, they could have all gone down. So many went up, some did go down. And then we took the time to work with some of the fact reps that had questions about it and sit down and go and review those numbers and say, this is what we're seeing. This is how we change it for the future. These may be some of the practices that are going on, but that comes from us being able to have this discussion right now, not just going around making promises to everyone that, yeah, eventually we'll get there and do it. Need to have a direct plan to address it. And that comes from either negotiating it or putting the team and empowering them to say, what does this look like in the interim? Because we can't wait until 2030 to finally pay people correctly. Jamal, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, brother.
I would add that most certainly we have ideas around how to account for what we're going through, and only reiterate that it's very clear that you at Jacksonville Center are underpaid. The raw data indicates that, and it's not a mystery to anyone. But you have to be willing to uphold those things that are in the contract and move beyond it if it's not serving you well enough through MOU. And as Nick said, not fear the consequences that might be associated with that. But there are ways to prevent downgrades that are already captured in the CBA. So we have mechanisms we could pull to do that. But 100%, we recognize that Jacksonville Center is not appropriately compensated right now.
This one is from Tango Kilo at Miami Center. What is a contract you have negotiated of which you are the most proud?
I would say, again, thank you, Tango Kilo, for your question. The one that we're most proud of is the next, right? Because spending a lot of time concerning ourselves with what's been done in the past is really setting yourself up to just live in the past. We do know for sure that, and it seems Tango Kilo has an affinity toward Mick, which is awesome. We do know that Mick negotiated a contract and basically did a copy and paste of the slate book. So while the slate book is an impressive contract, it's never meant to be the be all end all. It's meant to be a stepping stone for our future contract. So the next contract that we negotiate should be the best one NACA has ever had. You have to do that when the circumstances are appropriate, when the union is protected, when our membership has the opportunity to, with clarity, make a determination on which way to go. And by all means, that's something that should be done. So I'll say one more time, the one we're most proud of is the one that sits out in the future, and we'll gladly be part of the team that ushers that in. Maybe we're on the team, maybe we set the table, but NACA's next contract for the air traffic controllers and those covered under our present air traffic control, TMU, flight service, NOTAMs contract, it'll be our best contract.
Nick, do you want to add anything to it? We'll go to the next question.
No, I think that's exactly the thoughts for both of us. We don't have to have individual answers every time. He absolutely nailed it. If you're wanting to know what my resume is, well, I would say the thing that I'm most proud of that reached an agreement, because not everything is just a contract negotiation, would be the CRWG. And I think I could speak for Jamal, is the fact that he was part of the slate book negotiation. But we're looking forward to every chance and opportunity that we have. And you won't just see Nick Daniels and Daniels-Haltom suddenly signing all the MOUs. That is why you surround yourself with great leaders, very knowledgeable, and we don't have the depth of expertise. That is something that concerns me for our union, is believing that somehow somebody that goes out and promises you something is going to be able to execute it just all on their own. It's just not factual. It's not how a union operates or how it runs. What you have to be able to do is have the credibility, the integrity with the agencies, with the industry, with Congress, is that they know when NACA puts their name on it, we're going to stand behind it, and that they have a vested interest in seeing not only our union continue to rise and continue to address these challenges, because they're going to be many out there, with everything from new entrants to the the absolute issues that surround our pay and continuing to be able to recruit and retain people. So whether my name's in it, Jamal's name's in it, or anyone else, every one of those agreements is NACA's. And that's what we'll be proud of at the end of the day, not just what my name's on. So we'll move. That's what you can expect to hear and see from Team Daniels-Haltom if elected.
Okay, we do have a follow-up from Tango Kilo, and this is what he says. I think you answered it, but full disclosure, we're transparent here. For the record, my vote is undecided. That being said, I'm looking for actual pieces of paper you have negotiated.
Yeah, and I think we definitely covered it. And like I said, Jamal has a long resume of different negotiations. If you want to list out any other ones, Jamal, and I've been with him on, I'd say 3 or 4 of the national negotiations. The other one that I'd say being proud of was when the agency decided to resectorize or tried to go into service areas, and they went into their entire new concept when they used to be broke up into 9 different areas. And they told the union, it's no impact. We'll be fine. This is just all internal. We'll move on from there. And it ended up being a 17-section MOU where we expanded our rights out of the contract by something the agency said would not impact controllers, staff support, or TMCs in any manner.
Thank you. Next question is also from Miami Center. That's Jermaine Washington. Will the Southern region be seeing a poll on whether the membership supports an extension to the slate book?
Hey, thanks, Jermaine. It was good meeting you when we did get down to Miami. Nick is the Southwest Regional Vice President. I'm the National Training Rep, so we can't speak for the Southern region. That would be a question, I think, to pose toward Dan McCabe. I don't know if he'll do that. What I would say about those things is, you elect leaders. Our regional vice presidents are privy to information. They should ensure that the membership is also privy to that information. They're provided a stipend. They're given full duty time. I'm sorry, full official time to discharge their duties. They represent your region, and I think Dan currently represents your region very well. So how he goes about handling that particular issue is up to them. But I would know that no matter what he does, based on my relationship with him, he'd be doing what he believes is in the best interest of your region in entirety. Sorry that we can't give you a specific answer, but really can't answer for someone else.
Yeah, and I think you'll see in this forum and Jamal and I's leadership styles what we would I think prefer, and I know we would prefer is a level of continuity. If we're going to execute something as a region, we execute it all together. It should never hamper our regional vice presidents from making sure that a level of discussions had. And I think that goes to our expectations. Our expectation as president, executive vice president, was let's go out and educate people on whatever subject matter or topics there, and then bring any feedback. And however they bring that feedback, is it facility visits? Is it town halls? Is it a poll? Whatever that looks like, we need to be engaged with our RVPs and not just saying, what do you think? Because that is something that I've seen on this NEB, and think a death of any executive board, local level or anyone, is when it's 12 people in a room giving their personal opinion instead of saying, what does our membership look like? And ultimately, are they discharging their duties of protecting the organization? And do they have enough information to go and educate and articulate it to the members at hand? So that our expectation will come through the engagement with the RVPs of saying, how do we plan to go out and execute whatever that is, and bring the information back here so we can make a well-informed decision.
This is from Rick Callie. Earlier, he spoke up. Midwest FCTs would have appreciated the opportunity before their contract was extended until 2027. How about a standard that requires open input before a CBA is extended?
That's a good question, Rick, and that's interesting that you bring that up, because it does show that while in the Biden administration, while given the opportunity to negotiate under the Biden administration, our current national president elected to extend a CBA that was open. Only when it became a talking point on social medias was it an issue related to ATC and extending a CBA. The right call, I don't know, Mr. Cali. I wasn't part of that determination, so I can't say if it was the right call or not. But everything that was lined up, most labor-friendly administration in the history of the entire world, availability from our LR staff, availability from our chief negotiator, and we elected to extend. That should give you an indication as to what the real wishes or direction of this union is under Rich, as opposed to how he's portraying himself right now. So I can't go back in history and tell you exactly why, but you bring up a very valid point as to that did occur. So I see your hand up. If you want to speak to that, by all means, feel free.
Oh, it said that I did not have the ability to unmute, so I didn't bother. Yeah, that was actually decided by NATCO in 2021 to go to them. And oddly enough, they took that opportunity to negotiate the EO for sick leave that the rest of us in RVA and CI2 were not getting. And none of this was announced. We just stumbled across it because we have communication now with the Midwest and Serco NATCA reps. We're all on the same page. It just seems weird to me. And when I saw that there was this discussion within the FAA about extension or not, I thought, wow, so that's not something that's guaranteed within the FAA either. You can just walk in and extend it. I know that you elect representatives and you can't have them check with you every time. In fact, at my tower, I'm a benevolent dictator. I understand what people's positions are. They elected me, and that's the decisions I make. And my manager doesn't talk to anyone except me. And that took a long time to train. So my point is, why couldn't there be open discussion at least, even if it's not a poll? I don't like poll voting, anything like that. The leaders make the decisions, but why not an open discussion before any extension? This just blew into town with Midwest, and I speak openly with the Midwest controllers. They didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I think that's incumbent upon the expectations we put on the RVPs. Is to have those discussions and be able to bring them back to the board. Serving on this board for the 2.5 years that I have, and that question hasn't been asked except to me by our chief of staff, Dean Acapelli. And I think it was a sobering moment when we were talking about the RVA contract, right? He talked to us and we immediately engaged our fact reps in the Southwest region, John Bratcher and I did. And we were, what are the issues? What are the knowns? What are we facing? Because, everybody else lives it every day. But we weigh what are the, possible gains versus the possible losses. And are those, is that something that we're wanting to take on? So when it came specifically to the RVA contract, myself, it was at that time, Jim Marinetti and Joel Ortiz all got together. We went back, we talked to several of our reps, and we sat down with Dean to make that decision. And then ultimately our voice was taken in front of the president, because the president of the union is the one who decides whether or not we negotiate, we extend, or what the plan is from there. And we put forward our compelling case with that. But you're absolutely right. Those conversations need to have, but they're had by a president knowing this is a way to lead a team. And leading a team means going out and having the discussions and then ultimately making a well-informed decision. The other aspect of it that we did when we started talking about when we made the decision to open was then we decided, I think it was myself, I think it was still Jim. I don't think Dan had become the RVP just yet. Is we put out, a survey to everyone that said, if you have ideas and decisions or ideas and things that you want to see negotiated and for the team to explore, please list them here. I think we ended up getting about 36 of those, and that document still lives today for that team to engage. That's something that we've done. That's something that we would take nationally, and that would be an expectation that we have of the other RVPs, especially like you said, when it comes to Midwest and Serco. We need to make sure that the people's voice is heard and that we have the facts before we move forward. Couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you. I see Ariel's Smith. I see their hand up. I'll give to you in 1 second. We're going to take one from the chat. This is from Fred Steele at Memphis Center. When are we going to get a national grievance tracker? It's been way too long without a way to keep track of our grievances and history from those grievances.
I'll start off with that one because I am directly involved in it. While I know it's not anything particular to us running as candidates, one of the things about it is you're absolutely right. A union's ability to file grievances is the utmost of importance. It has taken too long. I know that there's been a lot of concerted work and it's gone through many different avenues of channels, but where it lies today is that the grievance review team, we decided to take that on from where it got to over, I don't remember the course of time. I know it had kind of gone into works prior to me becoming an RVP, but we pulled the ball over when it got to, I'd say, about 90% completion. What we've been dealing with lately is permissions issues that I know we've relayed. Jason Doss, the ITC committee, and several others, I forget the contractor, are working on, or who we have work on our behalf on several of the ITC projects. We're actually in the realm of, once we get the permissions updated, the rest of it's relatively there. So I would say you should see it in a more quick-like manner. But where the evolution should be, where I'll talk about it as a candidate, is we built a grievance tracker. A lot of people put in a lot of work, and it's not to disparage that in any way. It is a world of now thinking bigger than just a grievance tracker. What we should be building is a tool for our LR teams. And that's where we need to go to next is the Southwest region. We just on our own build a backend controllable. It's similar to ClickUp. In the Southern region, I know Dan has become RVP. They use that, is making something an effective tool for collecting background data, information, not just having notes stored in a grievance, but knowing and understanding where what LR reps assigned to it, how it'll be done. And my grievance, that's what we've called it, will have the ability to expand and move. We need to take a holistic look of building it from the LR team level out, not just how do I file a grievance overall. So I would say you could expect to see an actual grievance tracker, likely in the next few months, with our LR teams being first to use them and then rolling them out to the FAC reps overall. But you're absolutely right. Long overdue, but we will keep grinding until that part is done. And if you need any help in the meantime, I know the Southern Region LR team will absolutely dive in and get you the resources you need.
So we're going to Ariel Smith from Tyson in Tennessee.
Hi, Ariel Smith out of Knoxville, Tennessee, McGee Tyson. I apologize for not turning my video on. My husband's out of town. I have two kids screaming in the background, so I look a mess, but I still want to get on and ask a question. So mine are for bereavement leave and IVF. And this is all secondhand knowledge, but I know there's allegedly an IVF MOU on the table that may or may not be being used as a political tool, which I really think, if that's true, it's a disservice to our members that are going through IVF and need to support the facility, whether it be a fridge, again, sorry for the kids in the background, whether it be a fridge to store their things or a secure place to do their shots or whatever. So question one is that going to be pushed through or made a priority when you guys take office? And then bereavement leave, question two. I know we have a policy, but some managers don't include miscarriages. So is that something you guys are open to pursuing when you take office, to include miscarriage and make the language clear where everyone's on the same page that miscarriage is included in the parental bereavement leave?
Well, do you want to start out? I have not heard of, and I guess this is again part of some of the issues that I have being on the NEB. I do not know of any MOUs being worked on, signed, or otherwise about IVF. Jamal, did you have any information there, brother?
No, and to be very fair to Rich, I would hope that under no circumstance that anything of that magnitude is being held up as a political football, and I do not want to place that accusation on him. And I don't think you were doing that, Ariel. So I'm not saying that. I just want to make it very clear that we're not saying that he's done. We have no information that leads to that. That said, will we pursue that? Absolutely, because we want to pursue things that benefit our members. As we modernize, if we get a younger workforce, as we get a workforce that's telling us, I've worked other places and this existed, we have to pursue all of those things. As it related to miscarriages, absolutely, we have to pursue that. How could our employer not look at that in the same vein? You are certainly grieving in that circumstance. I've had family members that have gone through that, and it is most certainly something that bereavement would be appropriate for. So with all of the energy and might that we have in this union, we would absolutely pursue that. And thank you for your question. And again, just want to separate the two out and say that we've not heard of any such thing as a bereavement leave MOU being held up or politicized in any way.
Thank you. We're going to Wade now. Wade asks, do you support opening the contract for negotiations regardless of who the next president of the United States is in 2026?
Wade, that gives us an opportunity to have a broad discussion that needs to be had. Under no circumstances have we ever said who the president is matters to whether or not we want to negotiate a CBA, be it today, tomorrow, 2026, or whenever. It's whether or not executive orders that are aimed at decimating this union's ability to exist. Executive orders that immediately upon opening a CBA strip 77 of our articles. 77, I'm talking about annual leave, sick leave, Article 95, which is performance management, how we negotiate our schedules, all of those things gone. Article 33, length of time on position, position description, how we rotate through positions, all of those things gone. So if those executive orders are in place and we have a means by which we can protect this union from that, including Rich Santa, who just recently in Salt Lake City said the same thing, it would be our duty to protect our union from something such as that. If those executive orders don't exist, we don't care who's in office. As someone stated earlier, Joe Biden's not the most labor friendly. That's just a phrase. And oh, by the way, they don't show up at the table. You negotiate with the FAA. So if the rules are fair, we 100% believe in our ability to move this union forward and negotiate. If executive orders are in place, if Biden put executive orders in place that are, by the way, the law, cannot be worked around and would decimate this union, it would not be wise to do that. But, and last, and I'll pass it to Nick, there's opportunities to see where the temperature of those who are in the administration is. You don't have to wait until 2026 to say, we want to increase our pay. Here's an MOU. We want to increase our pay. Here's a differential that we believe we should be getting. We want to increase our pay. Here is an air traffic incentive that we believe should be given to air traffic controllers. All those things should be done. So please do not allow the contract that cannot be opened into 2026 to be the thing that's the boogeyman. We're not holding up any contract, and we're certainly not holding up pursuing advancing our pay right now today. If tasked with it today, Nick and I would get to work to trying to increase our pay. We do not fear it under any circumstance. We do have an obligation to educate and protect this membership of what it looks like if executive orders are there. And all you have to do is go to websites and find out what those executive orders were, or is there a desire to re-implement those executive orders depending on who is the next president. Not trying to dodge you, Wade, and please feel free after Nick answers to dialogue with us to see if that satisfies you.
Yeah, and I think the other part is, then what's the plan, right? If the plan is if there are no executive orders, Jamal said it, it's negotiate in 2026. We are going to be chomping at the bit to find ways to do it. If the executive order is in effect, or the side of it that I want to take, is then you have to have leaders who develop a strategy to not just say, well, we'll wait till a term negotiation and we'll be willing to lose 77 articles just so we can negotiate pay. Because you have Mick who's out there promising people pay raises no matter what, and at the loss of no matter what. If the fatigue imposition happened, and I just want to caveat this before we get into the how, if the executive orders are effect and we don't have the ability to negotiate schedules as we do now, those are stripped away from us. And an administrator did something like they did the other day and said, in X amount of time, this is the new policy and this is the new rule. There would be nothing but an implementation negotiation, because we would have no protections at that time. Mick promises you pay more than
I think Nick,
so you can vote for us on that matter from there. What's that,
you
Jamal?
froze there for a second, Nick.
My apologies. Yeah, the internet was showing a little bit unstable here and there. If I do, Jamal, just jump in and I'll I know you'll take it from there. But the other side of that is what I was saying was, if Mick's promising you pay, then Jamal and I will just promise you 10% more, and we can eliminate that conversation off the table. What it actually means, and what we actually should be doing, is talking about a strategy if executive orders are in place, is if you go out and start moving legislatively to take away those executive orders, now you don't have the agency sitting there with a gun to your head saying, in 2026, we'll open a contract on you. And we know it takes away 77 articles that we'd love to have back, and you can fight your way out from there. Mandatory pay is a mandatory subject of bargaining, but all the permissive subjects go away at that point. So if you move legislatively to do it, or you engage in a MOU in midterm bargaining, you don't have to just wait till 2026 to actually do bargaining. MOUs have been signed to move the entire pay of this union to codify, or things that were later codified into contracts later on. And that's something that we would absolutely do. We just have to get smart about how we're doing it. It can't be the same repeat process as time has evolved and we're in a new battlefield. That new battlefield is a world of executive orders that take away our ability to negotiate. So let's be smart about it and change our tactics, and not just say we're a victim to everything else. Those are the two ways that we see. And if anybody else has other ideas of how we attack it, we're open to those as well.
The last thing I would add to that is it is an informed membership is a membership that helps leaders make informed decisions. We have to educate our membership on what all the possibilities are and not be afraid of that, of the fallout to that. Wade, I see your hands up. We would love to dialogue with you. So by all means, I'll stop in the middle so you could speak, sir.
Hey, Jamal, how are you?
I'm great, bro.
So I'm just trying to get a clearer picture of, because there's the other, the other candidates, as stated, and several of the other people running for RVP in the central region or in the southern region have also stated that, that the Title 49 fixed the issue that you're talking about with DEOs. That if we go to impasse, that stuff will go to arbitration, and that we'll have the ability to have that stuff. That stuff won't be just stripped away and we won't be able to negotiate it. That stuff will be in there. The Title 49 fix that we had under the White Book will take care of that. And so we should just open it up for negotiations, period, the end, regardless of the executive orders. That those things were already fought out in the court system, and we don't have to worry about that. Is that your understanding? Is that your take? Is that your position? Or do you not believe that do you believe that the executive orders will supersede Title 49, or how does this all work under your understanding?
Okay, so the one thing I never want to try to do is talk over anyone's head or act like I have knowledge that is so hard to transfer, but it's a nuanced conversation, so just bear with me for a second. Title 49, the fix to Title 49, I believe, came in 2013. So Title 49 has been fixed since right after the White Book. And what Title 49 says is that you mediate to finality, and then if you can't come up with a resolution in that, then you arbitrate, right? But that speaks to those subjects of bargaining that are mandatory. If the executive orders make permissive subjects of bargaining illegal or bar a government entity from negotiating a permissive subject of bargaining, those are taken off. So we go back to pre Green Book. We go back to a CBA that's about this big with about 48 articles in it. So no, by no means does Title 49 do anything in that regard. What Title 49 would do is that which is left, pay being a mandatory subject of bargaining. If you could not agree on pay, then Title 49 you would take forward, right? And it would be mediated and then arbitrated. Who do you arbitrate that with? You arbitrate it with the FLRA. If you have a entity that is looking to strip government employees of their rights, their ability to negotiate, and their rights to be members of a union, it's odd to think that they're somehow going to say, but oh, by the way, we want to pay you substantially more, right? So to me, it's a shame that anyone running for these positions is willing to mislead any of our members into thinking that there is no worry whatsoever as it relates to that. I'm sure you've probably also heard the story that AFG was able to defeat the executive orders. Incredibly false. AFG had the good fortune of Joe Biden becoming the president and removing the executive orders on his third day of presidency. Otherwise, AFG, when they opened their CBA, while arguing about permissive subjects of bargaining, lost all of their permissive subjects of bargaining, lost their office space, lost their ability to negotiate, lost their official time, lost their ability to move forward, and they don't have pay as a means of negotiations in most of their bargaining units. This particular one was the Veterans Affairs. They only got restored when the executive orders were rescinded. They were told to go back to the table. Even after going back to the table in the Biden administration, it took them nearly 2 years to get a CBA. So I can't impart enough how unfair it is to you all as members to be misled into thinking that there is nothing to concern ourselves with. I've negotiated a CBA. Nick's been around for a while. There is no gain for us to tell you that there's worries in negotiating a CBA. Why would we do that? Just ask yourself, why? What is our angle and interest? It's fun to negotiate a CBA when the rules are fair. It is nothing better that we can do than move the ball forward for our membership, but we cannot mislead the membership. Please do not allow yourself to be misled. There's research that we could provide to you, Wade, that makes it very clear and can chart the path from Title 49 to the imposition of the executive orders and how they affected other unions. We're great, but we're not different. We are a federal sector union. We'll work our asses off to fight, but it is a fight with both arms tied behind your back. If you open a CBA with those executive orders in place, again, doesn't matter who the president is, it was those executive orders.
Thank you. Next question here from the genius Nicole Sarunis. NSEP national release policy question. What are your plans to improve or change the employee movement process?
Well, as we've been alluding to all night, there's many different areas that we seem to be stuck in the old way of thinking that the round peg in the square hole is going to somehow be able to eventually work out. It's evident, it's extremely clear that we have to go to a different level of thinking when it comes to our employee movement, especially given the circumstances. Our NSEP team is phenomenal. All of our regional reps that are working on it are working extremely hard to figure out ways to move forward under the rules as they exist. Several of the different things that Jamal and I would immediately want to engage that team and engage the FA. And again, we don't wave a wand as a union and everything happen. We know it's going to take a heavy level of collaboration and negotiation to make these changes. But these new ideas, this is the beauty of an election, is these ideas present themselves from going out and visiting 145 facilities. And so many of you that are stuck in your facilities have shared the stories and many of the solutions with us. One is just like the Air Force and the Marine Corps, they do targeted moves. That is something that we absolutely want to engage in for our level 9 and below facilities, is look at how do we move somebody through the system. If you're in a level 5 right now, we met a controller that just wants to, up in Minnesota, I think it was Minnesota, that wants to move to a level 6 in Nebraska. We should be able to target the move of saying, okay, we're going to have somebody placed out of the academy tomorrow behind that controller. When they reach X level of certification, let's say it's local control, then you have 6 months, a 6-month window, and you'll be released to the level 6 facility. If our academy grads right now are going through level 4 through 7, we should be best serving our membership first that wants to go through levels 4 through 7. And then we know our 8s and 9s are inherently stuck as well. We need to change our mindset and show the agency through data and working from there that our 8s and 9s, we can't sit at facilities that usually take around 2 years to 3 years to certify, that we're going to just place 1 to 2 bodies in there. We have to increase the number of vacancies so that way they can retain and they can still release people to 10s, 11s, and 12s. Right now we're in a system where our 11s and 12s are saying there's nobody we can hardly get from our level 8s and 9s facilities. Well, that's because everybody flows around our 8s and 9s instead of through them. So increasing those vacancies, and we would obviously not pitch it to the agency this way, but if you increase their vacancy rates to 125% instead of just the 85% being the new 100% as it exists right now, that will create more opportunity. Then they can retain a portion of those, so they're not on 6-day work weeks, and then move more people through them into higher level facilities from there. So those are just a few of the methods that we've discussed. We look forward to working with the NSEP team on that, and ultimately keeping the NSEP by name, changing it for our current circumstance until the health of the system improves overall to where it can be. There's not so many walls in this move system. And the last part of it is bringing back a world of swaps, and swaps starting out working back into like type facility swaps, especially en route to en route, or if you're in similar in-grade or downgrade of like types, we need to absolutely revitalize that process. And we think getting those initial steps done will clear out so many of the moves that are out there. We can really then start talking about the places that people want to compete for out there, like the Intercontinentals, the Charlottes, and everyone else. Is let the competition happen for those facilities, but let's make the moves that make sense happen elsewhere in a quick manner.
So before we get to the next question, it's reference the executive orders. I just want to highlight that Chris Arizabal mentioned the reason we can be a federal union is because of an executive order by a JFK, Executive Order 10988. On that note, this is also from Tango Kilo at Miami Center. For Nick, I've heard you previously explain the reason we need to consider extending the slate book is because the executive orders will destroy our union. Executive orders are written by the executive or the president, so it sounds like you're really saying Donald Trump will destroy NACA. If it is your position that Trump is the threat to our existence, why haven't you campaigned on a must defeat Trump message instead of veiling it under executive orders?
Just as Jamal said, it's because we don't negotiate with the president. Obviously, we'll speak out against any president in Trump, whoever is put in that position, that is going to put anything in there that's federal. And I don't care if it's a Democrat president that's going to put in something that we believe as a union is going to fundamentally strip away our rights. It's our duty, it's our obligation as labor leaders to speak out against it. So no, I don't need to go out and try to pick a fight with the president of the United States. What we need to do is use the process of legislative to move that ball, remove those issues, and ultimately make sure that we have the rights, and as Jamal said, a fair playing field to best represent our membership. If not, then we need to pivot. And if the American public elects President Trump, that's what we then deal with. Is a must defeat Trump doesn't benefit us as a union. It's being smart when those executive orders go into effect, because ultimately our job is to work with that president. We could be going and engaging the Trump administration advance, saying we do need to engage in contract negotiations, and those executive orders hamper our ability. And we could put forward that in order to retain air traffic controllers and move this American economy, that it's going to take us. And right now, we do not have the ability to retain. We're seeing losses at level 5 facilities, trying to move to DoD facilities or other jobs where you can stay at home and make the same amount of money. And then also to be able to recruit other individuals in here, that those executive orders will absolutely, again, as use those words that you use, decimate our ability to do those things, which in turn hurt the American economy. So going and put that forward, and he says, you know what, I'm still going to do it anyways. That's where we get to pivot and maneuver legislatively through MOUs, but it's not going to be just because we defeat Trump that we don't have some level of a fight that's always going to be on our hands, Democrat or Republican.
Yeah, having served on a contract team that occurred during the Obama administration, while we were in a mandatory sequester, we increased pay, we moved the ball forward for the union. We only can deal with the cards that are played out to us. So this current administration in 2021, they made the decision to extend the CBA, the slate book CBA, and they did it until 2026, right? They made that determination. That didn't have anything to do with Nick and I. If we are elected, we'd inherit that. But ask yourself again, what happened in 2021? What happened in 2022? 2022 was a great year. The economy finally started going back up. Aviation started to increase. We're in some of our markets seeing more planes than pre-COVID. Where was that opportunity to negotiate then with the Biden administration? So the job that's been done to put us on the defensive, the only thing we're defensive about is about union members. We want to ensure that union members are protected. And if that makes us unpopular to say that we want to protect union members, then we're in the wrong ball game anyway. That is our desire, to protect, not to hide from any hard issues, not to hide from the fight, but we do not want to run into slaughter just for the sake of saying so. We want to protect, and then we want to expand. Never, and I repeat, never was the slate book to be the be-all, end-all. Whatever comes next better be better, and it will be better if you elect the right people. Ask yourself why in 2022 nor in 2023 did Mick nor Rich advocate for opening a CBA and adjusting your pay during that time.
Thank you. Next question from Philip Pip Knight. In what ways do you think NACA needs to be more fiscally responsible? And does NACA have more than one consulting firm? Are there more affordable options for NACA Academy classes other than Las Vegas?
Well, I'll start. Go ahead, Nick.
Okay. I'll start with, running for president. It was, and just being on the NEB for the first term, is starting to hear, the ideas of being fiscally responsible, and the specifically to consultants, right? And a lot of, I don't think it's a hidden thing, is the president of our union hires consultants. It's their right in the Constitution. They get to control them, and we're starting to do some history and looking at that. Some of our past presidents had up to 10 consultants at one time. And like you said, it's been down to as little as one, or just working with our government affairs. A lot of consternation around Rinaldi, Paul Rinaldi and Rinaldi LLC, him having a company and being a consultant. Is the wages that we pay consultants are determined by the president and what they think they need. Going into an FAA reauthorization year, it's wise to have as loud of a voice as you can to ensure victories, just like having a tower simulator in every tower, or the CRWG numbers that we need to be able to hold and finally get FAA finance out of the business of saying how many controllers that this system needs, and get away from the bean counter mentality that the FAA has been under for multiple decades. We should have max consultants online, but the president and executive vice president, first of all, should be telling the membership who these consultants are and what services they provide. Not since I've been on this NEB, the first year we were told we could not talk to Paul Rinaldi, as he was a direct consultant to our president only. We couldn't speak to him, no way, no how. Now that the Rinaldi LLC is housed under government affairs, there are, I believe, 5 consultants from there. And I asked at the actual passing of our budget, what is that line? And it was our consultant line. It wasn't labeled consultants. I forget, it was labeled something else. What we are committing to you is, you will know who we hire. You will know what services they are providing and what services they are providing, not to just our union, but how that's a benefit to you. So everything else from there, I couldn't tell you. On the NEB, there's several other RVPs, I think, on the call around, never been briefed of what they do. The first one that I saw in a long time was Jose Ceballos, was used the other day to give us a briefing on the national election and what it looked like. And in 2.5 years, that's the first time I've had seen a consultant, besides one time when Paul did show up to an early NEB meeting and talk to us about the Constitution prior to going into the Houston convention. So that's where it lies, but that's our commitment to all of you of how we'll operate.
And the backside of your question is, is it cheaper to go other places? We go through this exercise when we determine where we're going to hold the classes. And because we do a volume of work with Caesars properties, we get extremely low room rates at those properties. Las Vegas is a place that most airports around the country fly direct to, so we get slightly cheaper flight rates when we do that. So when we do cost comparisons annually, or when we're determining where to have a class, it's typically cheaper to do it in Las Vegas. If you are aware, we have a constitutional provision that speaks to where the convention would be. And Las Vegas is the fallback if one can't come up with a cost that would be in alignment with what it would cost to do it in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas, while it might have a little bit of flash associated with it, it is a convention town. It is the city with the most hotel rooms in the entire country, and therefore we get reasonable rates. What we should be doing is educating members. A lot of these questions indicate that our membership is dying for education from us. Why, what, and where. We can't be lazy and assume that you know, and we can't be arrogant and think that you're just going to take our word for it. We got to be able to demonstrate it. We got to be willing to display it, and we got to absolutely be willing to explain everything that we do. We've fallen short in that, and the questions make a lot of sense based on that.
Yeah, and I say, no way are we opposed to going somewhere else, because the cost of Vegas is increasing as well. So as Jamal said, we'll price them out. It's the job of the National Training Committee to do that. I'm currently the chair of it. And this was the first time, I guess, talking to the fiscal responsibility and the style. The first thing I did when I became the national training chair is I said, where are the contracts? I want to see them. We were going into a new year, and guess what? We had never had a national training chair see the contracts for all the rooms, for the different classes we held. We, as a committee, and not just because of me, we as a committee said, nope, we want to see every one of them so we can start making well-informed decisions of where our classes should be. And we're absolutely going to explore that, of what makes the most sense for our union, where should we do the education, and what best serves you all.
Thank you. Next question is from Justin Morgan from Raleigh, Durham. Is there any avenue to negotiate an annual pay raise versus operating under the slate book raises? And has there been any discussion at the NEB or the national level of addressing pay while under this contract?
So again, Justin, thank you. I believe Justin to be a supporter, but Justin does not ask easy questions, and I always appreciate that. He asked me one day, "What are you going to do about the flight attendants getting all this pay?" Like, well, I don't know, Justin. But to answer this question specifically is yes. You know, when the Green Book, I know again people regale the history of the Green Book without speaking it truthfully. The Green Book was the pay associated with the Green Book. The Green Book took us off of FAA reform, or FAA reform in 1997 took us out of the GS scale. The Green Book then was a CBA, and an MOU associated with it, a pay MOU combined with the Green Book, is how we got our new pay settings. Those pay settings ran out. We later were imposed on the White Book. Then in the Red Book, we had pay settings. When we extended the Red Book in 2012, we had a MOU. That's where the 1.6 and the regardless of position and band came in. So to answer your question, absolutely through MOU you can do these things. It takes ingenuity, credibility, creativity, and a willingness, right? But you can't come to people and ask for those things when in other walks of life you're burning. So why hasn't this person who's dying apparently to negotiate at a CBA, why can't they demonstrate to you and us any proposal that they've made about pay whatsoever? We have a current president that has these abilities at his fingertips. Ask him to demonstrate any pay proposal that he's made since 2021. You get zero. So yes, to answer your question one more time very clearly, Justin, you can do those things. Why they haven't been done, I don't know. And as we explained earlier, that's an excellent way to check the temperature of whichever administration we would inherit, and we commit to doing that.
Thank you. Next question is, what is the NDJH plan for FCTs and the current negotiation of the new CBA regarding RVA? How does NDJH plan to hold FCT companies accountable for blatantly violating law and EOs going forward?
Well, now being a part of that and seeing it go on, it's starting to rely on many of the experts that are out there. You've been living this fight for a while, and obviously, a win is a win, no matter who does it. That's one of the things that we need to recognize. Is it's not going to be just Nick and Jamal come up with all the good ideas for FCT, FAA, any of our bargaining units, or Region X sisters or brothers. It's going directly, and thank you for how many of you have been willing to engage with Jamal and I to educate us on it. Bill Russell, or William Russell, as many know him, has reached out on many occasions to update us on what he, different ways that he's attacked the problem. You learn from that. Ultimately, our method will be to go out, listen to our membership, and ensure that we have staff and resources that will be able to affect that change. And we absolutely need to re-baseline where we're at. Serco, I would say, used to be probably the least labor-friendly employer, and they have completely flipped and changed to a more labor-friendly employer as of recent. Doesn't make all the issues go away. We still have to fight for our rights. But RVA has gone from one of the companies that was, I would say, easier to work with at times. Again, doesn't make all the problems disappear, to now being very draconian and anti-labor. And ultimately, we need to advocate against those companies. They can either come to the plate to negotiate. They can either understand that we have rights, or that we're going to work to stomp them into the out of existence, or into the path of making sure that union workers are protected. And that's the level of accountability, is being able to speak directly to it. And you can speak directly to it by when we become our own media and stop waiting for incidents and accidents to dictate our message. We have to be able to start utilizing the services of, or utilizing things like YouTube and YouTube Shorts, TikTok, to talk about how we as laborers need to stand up against these private companies that are going to forever be a for-profit model, but it shouldn't be on the backs of our rights being violated the entire time as well. So bringing attention and awareness to it will either choose the path for those employers, or we will ensure and work to make sure that those employers change.
The only thing I'd add is we also have to continue to organize our FCTs so that, you know, it's strength in numbers, so that these companies don't have any place to hide. They don't have any people to try to pit against those that are covered by unions. So continuing to expand that footprint gives us a better ability to represent you all. And if they're violating executive orders, we 100% have to tackle that with great intensity.
Thank you. This is also from, was it Mr. Williams? Does NDJH support the call for a FCT RVP that is an FCT member and will handle strictly FCT issues with a seat on the NEB?
I'll be brief and I'll pass it to Nick. Is, you know, that's a determination, to my understanding, that would be made by the by the our body at the like the word is at the convention. The convention body would have to make that determination. One would have to make a proposal. It would have to be seconded and then adopted by our body at the convention. If that's the will of the body, then of course we would do that. But I would say that you don't have to be a member of the NEB in order to have a voice in this union. And that's one of the things we need to change. I'm not a member of the NEB. I'm the training rep. I have a voice. And those who work with me, because no one works below me, those who work with me have a voice and a conduit through me to get to the National Executive Board. Our safety rep has that. So could we have a duly appointed or identified FCT rep without them even being on the NEB? I believe that's something possible and something that we'd be willing to support. But as far as needing our support to go to the convention body and get that approved, it doesn't require our support. It requires organization on behalf of the FCTs.
No, Jamal articulated it extremely well. One, we have to start breaking down the barriers of the communication. I believe there's roughly, I mean, giving you a ballpark, I think it's like 898, but let's just say for round numbers, about 1,000 of our FCT members that are out there right now. We have, you know, an ability as regions to ensure that they're incorporated into it. But do I think we're doing that effectively? No, I think we can absolutely improve in that level of communication. Does it take an RVP to do that? I don't believe that's necessary either in that capacity. However, it doesn't mean that, just like we'll liken it to this. We see an absolute need on the FAA side for our level 4 through 9 facilities to have a bigger voice with their leadership, with Jamal and myself. We held a call with all of them and proposed some of our ideas. And one was establishing a committee of level 4 through 9s that myself, Jamal, and the National Executive Board would meet with. I think something exactly like that with the FCTs would be a step in the right direction to determine, is that something that should be supported? Is that something that is needed? And or are we just missing in many of our areas to provide the communication avenues and the appropriate level of leadership? And that comes with a president, executive vice president, who's willing to talk about it, willing to engage in it, and have the resources where we sit down and have that communication. That's something I absolutely support and commit to, is providing our FCT leaders and a forum, an opportunity to make sure with Jamal and I that we figure out how to best advocate on your behalf, and then ultimately what should be going in front of the body. And you all get to choose what goes in front of the body for convention, and we'll execute that from there.
Does anybody have any questions, any comments, anything that they'd want to share with us?
Nicole Sarunas' hand is up.
Absolutely. Nicole is now unmuted, and she has the floor.
Yeah, he got me. I was going to follow up with you guys after this. The question that Ms. Smith had out of Knoxville regarding the IVF MOU, the MOU that has been created. Christina Monroe Wilco, the 114 for it, she gave us a briefing in the region probably about a month ago or something about it. But she stated that along the lines, I can't remember her exact words, that for political reasons, this MOU is being held up. So for Nick, specifically being on the NEB, have you heard anything about this IVF MOU that Rich is not signing, or anything along the lines with that?
I'd say it's probably goes in the world of the magical 5-center upgrade thing that wasn't talked about with the NEB as well, and then was told we didn't support it, and created consternation and chaos from there. Sounds just like that. I had not received a briefing, not aware of it, but I do sleep on occasion. So if somehow I don't know about it, and any of the other RVPs that want to remind me about it, I can say definitively right now, I have not heard anything about that on the internet.
Just to be clear, he doesn't sleep in meetings. I don't know what you're talking about there, but
I'm saying it that as I do go to sleep and have forgot things from previous days.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to clean that up. Not a good look.
That's good looking out as a teammate, brother. Appreciate you.
Okay. So if you guys do hear anything about that on the NEB, if you wouldn't mind letting one of us know, somebody know, and we can go from there.
I would say again, just would be appalled if that's the case. I don't see how that is politically expedient or a negative. If anything, it would be a positive for Rich. I most certainly, that's an opportunity for us to clear this up. We've had questions about, are we happy about the CRWG numbers? Of course we are. Are we happy about simulation and all of our towers having a requirement to have simulation and max? We're happy about all of those things. Wins for NACA are wins for us. We are not anti anything. We're positive people that have a desire to move the union forward and don't believe in the current direction. So we wouldn't be hiding anything from you under any circumstance. But again, we've not heard of anything about IBF MOU being held up.
Okay, looks like we got the lady herself in the chat there. Christina's in the chat. She said she got further info that it was stuck at the FAA and it came down to logistics of what the rules would be to implement it. So it looks like we're good. Thank you, guys.
No problem. Thanks for making sure it was clear, Nicole, for our members.
Thank you, Nicole.
Alex,
I just wanted.
Oh, I saw Alex on mute. I didn't hear anything. Could have been me.
No, I just wanted to say thank you for hosting the town meeting, and I appreciate you running and giving us options, and look forward to hearing more from you.
Hey, Wade, if you saw, the executive orders were put in the chat, and we'll get an explanation on Title 49 and the impacts, and we'll have that on our website. And I don't know what facility you're at, but if you want it sent directly to you, we can send that to you. And the important part is that people have informed decisions or make informed decisions, and that look, we understand how important it is to increase pay. Oh, by the way, chances are, like the other gentleman told me, I'm not going to win, so I'm going to benefit from any pay raise that exists either way. So I don't understand where it's coming from or the thought, but want to be very crystal clear. We want to increase pay for air traffic controllers and all of the people that we represent. Period.
On that note, let me ask you this question. I know, do you guys have any thoughts on increasing? I know you mentioned a 3% raise for like certifications like CIC, maybe OJTI, or something of that nature. Would there also be, in your opinion, the ability to somehow incorporate those differential pays or those premium pays so that they do count as part of our high 3 towards retirement? Do you guys have any thought about that?
So those are things, in all honesty, when you talk about negotiation tactics, one of them is adding on to a permanent bill. One of them is addressing the immediacy of putting money in people's pocket. So to say that there's a crystal clear delineation on which way you go on that, I don't think we'd be appropriately answering that right now. It's to look at it in totality. The first thing you would try to do is find ways to get money into people's pockets immediately, and then look for other ways to expound on what you're talking about, is how to get these things into high three. It's kind of a crawl before you walk type of scenario, but understanding that absolutely people want to see that go up as well.
Yeah, I think it's about goal setting, right? When we go into a negotiation, Wade, when you set that goal of we do want to maximize their high three, then you have to look at the laws in place, like the FLSA. Can a premium or a differential be used to roll into your high three? If it can, then we bring that in as a negotiation tactic. So understanding that we too have the same goal as maximize, because a lot of people have talked about in that same vein, bringing in overtime. We're going to be at work for 400 to 500 hours in a year and plus from that, which gets into, we're already in the land of egregious when we talk about that. Everything from a tiered overtime to okay, that's one idea. The second idea is, can it add to my length of service or be calculated in my high three as well? If we have, and the laws don't prevent it from us from doing that, we will absolutely be working in that direction to negotiate that as well.
Okay. I was just curious. Thank you. Like I said, thank you for your time, and I appreciate you guys hosting this town hall for us.
Well, thanks for the ideas, brother. We appreciate y'all. We look to have more of this in the future, and what leaders should, as a NACA family, we should be having these discussions on the regular.
Awesome. I see in the chat, Brandon says he has a random question, but there's no question attached to it. So Brandon, you can either type the question or raise your hand and we'll call on you. There's Brandon. So no hand, but I think he wants to talk. Let's go, brother. You're on.
Hey guys, how you doing? I started thinking about it during the fatigue memo thing. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about it, your opinion of it. I think I'm not 100% sure that at one point we were on a maxi flex 80 and we fought to get to a 40. With these new rules coming out and how that plays into it, is there any way? I don't. Jamal, and you guys can probably explain this to me, but is there any benefit to us to look at that to get more creative with our schedules or anything?
Well, what's up, Brandon? How you doing, brother? The MaxiFlex 80 is something that the flight service specialists do have currently and can use based on the special needs and the requirements to be on remote sites, etc. MaxiFlex 40 allows us to work within the FLSA laws that Nick just alluded to, earn credit, etc. But if these rules change, it's incumbent upon a union to look for all vehicles to account for those things. We're not going to do it on the backs of controllers. We're not going to shorten shifts, and we're certainly not going to not have an appropriate amount of people there in order to adjust to the rules that the regulator wants to put in place. So in totality, Brandon, it's going to take a lot of conversation, negotiations, and looking under every rock to see how can we implement whatever fatigue rules are eventually agreed to, and then still protect our membership. We're certainly not going to get paid less in the process, and we're not going to we're not going to work 3 hours on position to make it happen. So we're going to protect ourselves, provided we have the ability to, without executive orders in place that allow us to do all of those things. So MaxiFlex 80, just to answer your question, was not part of our CBA. Even in the past, MaxiFlex 40 was new to this CBA. Well, it's part of our CBA, but not related to the air traffic bargaining unit.
Thanks, Brandon, for bringing that, because we know everybody's brainstorming that question of what it looks like right now, and it's weighing on everybody's mind stuff. What does our future look like? And as Jamal just mentioned, our goal being in those positions, in September 1 of 2024 will be to ensure that we're protecting it and we're educating and updating you along the way. If those negotiations and that collaborative group that's working hasn't taken effect yet.
There's one last question, and it's from Justin. What's the hardest hitting, one last hard hitting question? What's the best region?
If you're looking for us to beg for votes, Justin, we ain't doing it. We're not begging for votes, but we're not out here going to sit there and I'll see what Jamal says. I honestly, I do want to answer it this way in being all sincere. I know Justin's giving us a hard time. Of course, it's got to be the one that you're currently in. But going out and visiting this many facilities, right? I think we're at 145 and ticking along. We'll have gone to 2/3 of the facilities around the country by the time it's over. This is to include FCTs and FAA facilities and Region X facilities, as well as our FAST, and AOS sisters and brothers. Is going out and seeing so many different regions, and you having engaged leaders being out there and starting to tie together either or finding out the anomaly to the things that are widespread and that are being done incorrect. That is absolutely the role of the president and executive vice president's union. And we have committed when we're elected that one of us will step in every one of those 313 FAA facilities. We will maximize our presence in the FCT facilities. And any manager in this country will know when we show up because NACA is there. Because there is a sense of pride when our union, I'm not walking in because it's Nick Daniels or it's Daniels-Haltom. We're walking in because NACA has that level of presence, and we're going to make sure that issues are addressed, that members are informed, and that they know they're a part of a union that has a purpose to move forward. And ultimately, we should, while 9 different regions and 10 overall with Region X, 9 FAA and FCT, and then 10 with our Region X, the goal will be the same thing we've done in, I think, the Southwest region. We implemented a very, direct idea and goal from the beginning. We weren't 38 FAA facilities. We were one region. And in this role as president, and I know Jamal shares in this as well, we're not 313 facilities, or we're not 200 FCTs. We are, if we're 10 regions, we're one union. And bringing back that idea is, it's not what coast you're on, it's not where you're located, and that it's one union, and we speak with one voice. While we disagree on items, while we don't always line up in the direction, that you have an ability to have an influence on the direction that we go through voting, and ultimately knowing that we acted for the right reasons at the right time, and that we can stand behind it at the end of the day, and that your leaders are accountable to it, and not just going to give you some special MOU, some special MOU word salad to make you feel better at the end of it. That's ultimately who we want to be and what we want to be out. So thanks. Even with the fun question there, use that opportunity to really set forward what it's going to look like in the future with Jamal and I. And Jamal, are you going to answer Western Pacific?
You answered it, bro. You answered the question.
One last question came in, and it's actually for Jamal, and this is from William Russell. Would Jamal like to comment about Mick Devine saying FCT controllers make too much money compared to their lower level FAA facility counterparts in one of his videos, and that they don't deserve a raise until lower FAA facilities receive one? Does Jamal share this sentiment?
Do I share the same sentiment? No. Mick Devine has been wrong or misleading about pay from the very beginning of this journey toward being the executive vice president. He's used pay to sensationalize and divide. We believe that, again, as I said before, a high tide rises all ships. We're certainly not going to pit our union against each other. That's what the agency does. That's what union busters do. So by no means do I think our FCT controllers get paid too much. That's foolish. I don't think any of us get paid enough, right? We want to increase that. We've been very clear about that. Now, are we the little sisters of the poor? Absolutely not. Has our union served us well? Yes. Has the world's economy changed and we need to adjust to that? Absolutely. So I go back to what I said at the very beginning. He's been misleading intentionally and then just flat out wrong on most of the statements regarding pay. But that's his go-to. Look at the rest of his track record. Hasn't done many things, certainly hasn't done many things well. So why not just throw the chum out there and hope that it stirs everyone up? I hope that answers your question, Will.
Thank you. So we had one more question come in. It's Daniel Garcia from Miami Center. Maybe not. Daniel, do you want to say something? Okay, there we go.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for doing this as a fact rep of a facility of 300 plus members. I think that the best thing we can hope for as fact reps is that our members are as informed on the positions of the candidates as informed as they can be. So I want to thank you guys for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. And thank you to all the Southern region. We've spent a lot of time in the Southern region. Your specific hospitality and so many of the reps. We know you've showed up on your days off. You've stayed after your shifts. We've even had people come in and we're like, oh man, you stayed after the mid. These opportunities to have these discussions, like you said, only makes our union better. And that's what we're ultimately about, is pushing and finding the ways of how we improve. And Jamal and I think taking, pushing in the direction that we want, we want to work with all of you, not just Nick and Jamal have all the ideas. So go follow them. Is hopefully you've heard a lot of that tonight as well. So thank you, Danny.
I guess we're at the point of closing out. I would say thank you to everyone as well. And, we've been very intentional in this is trying to meet as many members as we can, not putting the pressure on the fact reps to tell people who to vote for, and be very clear that you get to make a choice in this election. You don't have, it's an anonymous election like any other is. No one's going to know who you voted for. And as Nick said, if we win by one vote or if we win in a landslide, we're not looking to find out who didn't vote for us. We're looking to support NACA's interests. And that means support you all. That's what we're about. Our track records show it. We encourage you to please look at our track records. If people operate in rumors and misleading stories, there's a reason. They're hiding from their track record. We're proud of our track records. We want to improve on our track records and continue to serve the union. We thank you wholeheartedly for spending time with us tonight.
Yeah, and June 3rd, the ballots go out. And as Jamal said, that's your chance to use your voice and use your vote in choosing what the direction of this union looks like. Now, you have to have them in by July 30th, but they also have to go through DC mail. And from where the Southern region lives, that takes usually in the upwards of 14 days. So we tell you, get that ballot in no later than July 10th if you want to ensure that it's actually counted for the July 30th count. And when it is, and when it's done, this union will have known that it had a choice. It didn't get put in a position to just say, I guess we're going that way. Nope, you choosing what that looks like. And if we can do anything to help you get out the voice, or help get out the vote, let us know. But this is going to come down to you is next. Not just Jamal and I, but each and every one of you going out and being outspoken about what you want to see, where our union's going. And we would ask every one of you to support us in that endeavor. Alex, over to you, brother.
Absolutely. And it's difficult to top that. It's impossible for me. However, I just want to say, as a volunteer in this campaign, we have a link in our chat so you can volunteer. If you like what you heard, if you like the message, if you want to be involved in part of a movement to give our members voice, this is it. This is what we have. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for a voice. So there's a link there. I hope that we see your name in the future and help us get to the finish line. We're going to need everyone's help. And it starts with your address. Make sure your mailing address is updated. That has to be current. Without that, you're not going to get a ballot. So the little things matter. With that, I say thank you, good night, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.